It's unbelievable.
I know this is a couple minutes early, if I could have your attention. We are going to request, I know this is an open request, but as a follow-up to yesterday's discussion with Tom Meredith, he had requested that perhaps he could have a follow-up with the board members. There will be no business, but he wanted to go through some of the issues that he discussed yesterday. But we would like it to be board only. We will have our legal counsel here to make sure that we are not conducting business and of any type. But it would be our request that you give us a little time to be with Tom alone. However, you have the right to stay if you like. So, it's just a request. So if those of you that are not board members, you go out and maybe just enjoy yourself a little bit more than the other, and we will, it won't be very long. Thank
If anything changes,
Oh, that's a good shame.
Don left.
10 o'clock, Tom? He's thinking 10 o'clock?
You know, as soon as we put on through
For the day.
Do you have the lunch?
Huh? Well, the governor said I need to be there. That's important.
Missing three.
You know what, and I laid my stuff across the bench because it was so cold yesterday. Yeah.
Missing three.
Carrie's right there.
The board will be here.
Yeah, Carrie's here.
Thank you,
So
Gary.
just Grant.
Well, I don't think we can start before 8:30 now.
Let's give it.
No, that's probably very
Didn't
true.
we just talk about
And this is,
our meeting? I mean,
yeah, no, that's probably a very good point.
So Don and
Don won't be here.
Oh, he won't.
He headed back, so well, yeah.
Lock on together.
So anybody else coming?
We should have Grant.
Who's good for that?
You would be, oh, here's a message from him.
Picked up by the police.
Yeah, well, I think he was with his really good friends. I'm trying to wrap up work, call, so we're 15 minutes late. Well, then I think we're just going to have on the bottom. But, Tom, you wanted to maybe just...
Yeah, I just said to Kirsten yesterday or the day before, I wonder if it might be helpful for you all to have a conversation. You don't ever get to have a conversation. To have a conversation without everybody else being in the room. Sometimes it can be a little disconcerting because as we all watch body language and see somebody thinking one way or another, you think, oh, just hold on to that one. I thought it might be nice for you all to have a few minutes to talk about things, and particularly without the presidents. Kathleen, you want to say?
I I wasn't, but I totally agree with you, because I think of Kirsten's comment yesterday is, it seems that, and I'm referring to the one where you said, all the goodwill that was done at UND, medical school, law school, the feeling was unexplainable.
Okay.
Nailed it. I think that's amazing. That's permeated, to be quite honest, with the cabinet.
Mhm.
I would think our team was a, you know, I mean, I don't know if we should be a team, as a governing board, but, I don't think we're conducive working together. I think we're further now than we were a year ago.
Towards the positive.
Yes. And
Further away, further forward.
no, I think we've gained a lot of ground in the last year. I think we've even gained some ground from before last year, you know. But there's still 11 silos, and we're still trying to make them a system. And I think that's in higher education. If you're sitting on our campuses, it's the same thing within the campuses. You know, the music department only cares about the music department. They don't care about the art department and the biology department. Even within the music department, the choirs don't like the band.
But some of that is inherent
Right.
to the operation. But when it gets in the way of us doing the business, that's when it's.
You know, when you want to change the culture or make dramatic changes, it's always appeared to me that it's going to happen only if one or two things are present. One is everybody agrees that there's an urgency in this. I mean, there's an overwhelming agreement that we don't do this, we'll be in trouble, something will be in trouble, whatever. So there's got to be an urgency, or everyone has to understand this will benefit me, so therefore let's do this. Other than that, I'm not sure that I can think of other reasons why people will make a lot of change. The old expression, the only people who ever call for a change are wet babies. But other than that, you know, not much else than anybody else ever calls for a change. And so you've got presidents that have been operating in silos. You've got one or two presidents that appear to me, by the way, it's got to be like Las Vegas. It's in here. Anybody violates that and messes it up. But you got, from my observation only, I don't have any facts here. You got one president in particular that's striking out pretty much on his own. You may have another one or two, maybe, but one in particular that seems, from my calls anyway, seems to be on everyone's mind. And so, you know, that'll have to be dealt with at some point in time. And sooner the better. Because it's in any organization, if you have someone in a top level position who's not in, you got to be all in. If you have someone in a top position who's not in, the organization can never move forward. And what we're talking about here is not just the board, but the whole deal. I was distressed to hear last night that the board is not invited to be a part of the commencement of EDSU, and maybe UND. I mean, it's off the chart. I mean, the board.
Well, why do we allow that?
Well, that's
That's
my question.
Why do we allow that? I'll make another observation that I think puts us in, and once again, it had business in Las Vegas. We have a chancellor who is a president. Interim president.
Well,
Interim.
there's
And
more-
we're all in a dicey situation here because he has split allegiance.
Well, I think it's more complicated than that,
Now you
to
hear
be
it.
quite honest. I mean, I think you've got a chancellor who's eyeing a permanent position, but he's got a foot over here and a foot over there.
He
No,
does
no.
not.
He doesn't want it?
No.
Okay.
So that's,
So
we
he- so
can't do
Larry
it without
wants to go
changing
back.
But he's going to go back with his colleagues.
See, he has to go back, so we're in this position that anything that is going to rock that boat. Okay, time out. Oh, no, can't go there.
I have,
Thank you.
I have
just a couple of comments. And being new on the board, actually come in without any preconceived notions, nor without any past history. And I'm not saying that's good, bad, or indifferent, but it does create the way that I perceive and the way I look at things. And the way I look at things is that I'm looking towards the future, not necessarily what happened in the past. A couple sayings that I heard early in my career. One is, let's give that person enough rope so they hang themselves. And that sometimes happens in positions like this or organizations like this, because you will find out as time goes on who is strong and who's doing what should be done. The other saying that I heard that I think is real critical is that it really doesn't matter who gets the credit as long as the job gets done. And more jobs get done if you don't worry about that. So I think in this situation, that's a bigger deal to me than it is who gets the credit.
And I kind of think that, okay, I hope I don't offend anyone, because I think you're all wonderful people and I love you to death, but I think the problem stems back from how we get along with each other. And in the last year and a half, or last 2 years maybe, the board was very divided. And it wasn't always easy, to be honest. And it wasn't, I think we need to learn how to trust each other, how to be able to speak freely and not worry that there's going to be a nasty phone call on your way home or something bad's going to happen if I talk. I think we need to be able to be professionals in it. And when we can do that, then I think it can spread out to the presidents working better with us. And so I think it has to start with us. They're seeing us scared to talk. They're seeing us scared of each other. So how is that a role model?
They see you, I suspect, as I see the board. A board that's running scared, nervous, playing it safe, holding close to the vest undeal. And understandably, you've taken some big shots with the last person that was the chancellor, and things didn't always go well. A lot of people got ticked off and all this kind of stuff. Trust broke down dramatically. Again, I'm telling you from all that I know, which is not obviously not everything, but, clear trust broke down. Big time. I don't know all the reasons. I know one reason. Stuff. But other than that, I don't know all the other reasons, but big trust broke down. So now you got everybody kind of doing like this. Record of metric 3, you got to take us like this. So everybody's kind of pulled back a little bit, it seems to be. Observation on this. And when leadership is not exerting itself in the right way, somebody always feels the way. Someone will take advantage. It happens in every organization. Somebody will take advantage of a vote. Sometimes positive, sometimes negative. They'll grab it from it. And I see that here. It would appear to me from an outsider. I don't know all the details. I don't know where anything out saying that, but it's just true. I want to keep reinforcing it. This is not the time to be that way. The public is going to be by its criticism, by its measure 3, and I realize that's been building for some time, but it passed this time. So it seems to me people are saying to you, you're not providing the leadership we must have to run these universities. The same people will say, I'm really ticked off with you after my president. No question. And it's just going to be some people when it comes to it. Just from an outsider's perspective, people want you to provide the leadership that you're supposed to provide as a board. they're looking for that. Does that mean intrusion? No, you heard all the stuff we went through yesterday. But it's leadership, it's people recognizing who's in charge. You shouldn't have to demand that anybody knows who's in charge. They'll be smart enough to do that, but if they see the void, and when that happens, people's hands have to be called. Any of you run businesses, if you had people in your business doing some things like you see one or two presidents doing here, would you put up with it in a corporate environment or in a business? Not in a heartbeat. Not in a hurry. You would put up with that. So I guess the question is, why would you put up with it here? I'm asking that question. Why would you?
Do you think that part of the problem is that we play, and this is what I was alluding to yesterday, we kind of play North Dakota Nice at our meeting. So our chancellor or our president get up and they say, here's what we want, here's why you should pass this, and we never hear the other side of why, what the...
No, I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that we're too nice, or that we declare ourselves on anybody anymore. It seems like that's all we try to do. It's that we haven't gained their confidence. Why would they? I mean, if you look at what we approve on an agenda, it's a lot of it's consent items. There is a question discussion. We just, why would they think? I mean, I don't feel like we have provided much leadership. And I've watched the chamber now having these roundtables in our absence because we're not doing it, and they're inviting presidents and not us. And I just go, wait a minute, shouldn't we be? And today is our opportunity really to sit down and talk about these things. In my opinion, to really, move our board forward. As you said, I mean, the respect and the confidence will follow if we do the work right. And we're not going to worry about it. But we haven't really done that work right yet. I don't think we've provided that direction. Instead, we've tried to overstep, and my opinion, what we're here for, which is to provide the perspective of each of us brings to the strategy system. Instead, we've adopted, admissions process that we don't understand that stuff the way they do. They understand it much better than us, and I don't think we should be doing that. And I think we need to do our job to earn their confidence. And my understanding is today we're actually having some collaborative meetings or some small group breakouts that people involved and get their ideas, and I think that's how we will earn their confidence. By talking about what are the issues, and I feel like so much of our energy is spent on worrying about making mistakes and worrying about how we view accountability as opposed to just talking about what we can go, what we can do with the system.
I don't have a problem with the silo concept if the farm moves forward. And presidents have egos just like all the rest of us. Some egos are a little stronger than others. And I feel very strongly that the stronger that they move their universities, the stronger we're going to be perceived as a higher education board system. And we don't need to jam that down people's throats. They know that. They can figure that out. So I think the stronger that our universities are, the more job they are doing in training and educating and helping our young people in the state of North Dakota finding positions, finding jobs, the better off our system will be. I think a bigger problem is our enrollments are pretty flat. And we need somehow or another to increase our enrollments, whether it's through our 2-year program. But anyway, that's my thought. But again, I'm not opposed to the silo concept if the farm moves forward.
There's two ways to use presidents in the system. Some systems don't engage the presidents, they don't include the presidents, and so forth. So it's a us and them kind of situation. Other systems use presidents a lot. It's hard to get boards to understand. It's hard to get presidents to understand this on their own campus. But when there's a problem, it's not just your problem. You don't have to carry that problem all by yourself as a board. As we talked about yesterday, you've got all kinds of expertise. You've got good minds, good thinkers, and so forth. So when the problem hits the system, whatever it happens to be, you shouldn't have to be the ones to solve that. You got professionals all over the place. draw them in, I mean, just almost repeatedly using the talent around them to help you solve problems in the system, something needs to be done. Second part is to use the presidents in the right way as a sounding board for the board with the chancellor. So you say to the chancellor, let's use our presidents to help us think through this. Let's get them engaged. So they're in that dialogue with the board, trying to get, because they're going to think of the different perspectives you have out of these different kinds of institutions. From big ones to very small ones, to 2-year, 4-year research. You got a lot of different mindsets coming at anything that you're dealing with. I'd use those presidents, engage them, make them a part of the problem, part of the solution then. And I don't know how much you do that, but that's the way that presidents now start buying in, because they're part of the deal. And they're looked to.
I think that's a good point. We have tried to bring them back in. They were engaged, and then they felt disengaged.
Sure.
We're bringing them back in, but they're still very quiet. And I had one yesterday say we still are fearful to speak. So we're not there yet. But today will tell us a lot.
Yeah.
If we get in small groups and they actually are engaged, then I think
I would challenge them when you all start the process today. We need your thoughts, we need your leadership in helping us think through this. Follow them out, but really be involved in this thing. I wish we had tacked on another day for me to come in ahead of time. And some of us have to do by phone just because of distance, but really sit down face to face with these presidents and say, let's talk about where you are in the system, relationships, and trust. And let's have that conversation with no one else. I guess I feel the presidents. But, you know, just to,
Why can't that still?
I'm sorry.
Why can't that still happen moving forward? I mean, this is not a done deal today.
No, it's not. But,
This is a process, potentially involved.
you know, just,
Why not do a
I would hope that they would, whether it's me or somebody else, but with a colleague, someone who's been in their seat and understands where they are, that they would open up and say, here's what we're doing this.
That shows competitiveness among presidents is healthy.
Oh, I mean,
Because let's make them want to move forward, want to move the college, the university in the right direction. So I don't have a problem with the competitiveness among them.
no, I mean, no one does. I mean, that's a given in our business.
When they step outside the policies of the board,
Yeah. They have no respect for
they
them.
have no respect. And
Yeah.
that's what it is.
But that's in-
Yeah, you know, I also want to caution you, too. Don't assume because you've got 1 or 2 presidents or 3 that aren't playing ball like you'd like them to play ball. Don't assume all of them are in the club.
That's very true.
You've got some others who, I would bet, in a conversation, they don't like this other stuff going on. It's not doing them any good. It's not making things run smoothly. It's certainly not doing anything to help collaboration to do things going forward, and they need that collaboration, a lot of these smaller institutions. So don't assume all your presidents are whatever. I would bet that's not the case. I know, even on this board, you know, it's interesting in my conversations with you. You're wondering if the whole board is really into this and so forth and so on. You know, I would make the assumption that this board really wants to do the right thing here. They want to move forward, together. We love to have those kind of relationships that we talk about. So don't assume the board's not really into this either. Because I think from my conversation, you're into this, you're just struggling here with some different pieces of it. You may, it's another guess, but I bet it's an educated guess. Even though the public may not know much about you or who you are or what the board does, I would bet that the public would be excited about strong leadership, not for your sake, not for you individually, but strong leadership from this board that's pulling our institutions together to make North Dakota better. I mean, that's what this whole thing was set up to do. And I just have to believe that the public would be excited about that. Clearly, even though you had some detractors, your elected officials would say, okay, we can quit worrying about this. Quit fussing about this. We have strong leadership up there, moving them forward. We've got the presidents working together, trying to make this thing happen. Okay.
If I can just briefly, I think what's been so helpful about having you here, and when I'm off the board, I hope that you consider tapping this type of resource, because in moving into a good relationship with our presidents, you talked a lot about trust. And one of the things that I've seen just in yesterday's presentation and with some other things over the couple of years, we had adopted, for instance, just as an example, our new communication protocol with Buzz Shaw. Okay? And that wrongly got hung on our past chancellor, but people forgot that didn't have anything to do with him. We adopted him while Bill Bill was still here, and almost verbatim off of the recommendation from Buzz Shaw, who you know. And it was a best practices. The letter that went out was vetted by Buzz, and this is what everybody does. And of course, as board members remember, what came out of it from our campuses was, this is the craziest thing that higher ed has ever seen. And then you come back yesterday and almost maybe in not quite as forceful of a way that say exactly what Buzz Shaw said. And so when you said, we need to work with our experts on the campuses and things like that, I agree with that, but I'm not so sure right now this board is able to completely trust the information that comes up from the campuses. Now this is a personal opinion, but we had a presentation at our last meeting, which you probably saw on admission standards. And I'm no expert, but what that task force brought forward, in my view, was bunk. And so I don't know if I have a level of trust. If a task force comes out and says 2 research universities have to have the same admission standards as Minot State University and the University of Minnesota Crookston, something doesn't smell right. And so I don't know if tapping into those, even within our system office, if I have that level of comfort right now, because the most comfort I've had with getting information is listening to you, because you've been there, you've done it.
We're a little worried that we're getting into board business.
No, that's not board business.
Well, we've got our legal counsel.
I respectfully disagree. But anyway, I'm off that topic.
Okay.
But we, I'm talking about the issue of the information we get out. I'm giving you anecdotes, but I don't know as a board member, I can really sit back and say, okay, you campuses come together on important policy issues and tell us what you think, because I think some of that information we're getting is driven by people who aren't really with our agenda. And that can play out in a number of different
ways. This is the question, then how do we make sure that doesn't happen, that we are getting?
Well, there's a couple of different ways. I'm trying not to use too many self-stories here, but one of the places where I went, before I ever arrived, I usually, get your new chancellor to do this, by the way. Ask every board member to say, what do you think my top 3 priorities should be? What is it you see here? The big things I've got to be able to look at. Pretty interesting array of things you get from board members. And the second thing is I always ask all the presidents that. When I get one of the top 3 things you think I really need to deal with, what's it done? Every president said, we submit good data, everybody else is lying. And so, you got to do something to make sure you get consistent good data in order to help the board make their decisions. All of them said that. So I didn't waste any time at all when I got there, just now it's to what you're talking about. You know, put together a group of people and said, look, the data we get's got to be consistent. It's got to be correct, the same definitions, the same everything, so that the board can at least have the right data, the correct data, in which to then we can develop policies or whatever, all that stuff. And so we put together a bunch of folks who just love this kind of stuff, and they didn't care about anything else. I mean, we were in their bailiwick, and they were excited. And they came up, it took a while. Definition, everybody would follow on everything. And the second step to all of that, you know, once you get all that, is what do you do with that data? In most places nowadays, I don't know if you have it or not, I didn't answer that question. They have a data warehouse, and the data warehouse is where all that data, consistent definitions, are collected the same way, comes into the mystery computer in the cloud. And then you can generate reports off of that all the time. You don't have to keep going back to institutions and say, all right, send me information on your, how many things you have. How many minutes, send out another request. Boom, it all comes into here. Now you just take that data and generate it. You know it's consistent. Unless someone has lied. And then you can pick off that sort of things. At that point,
You're talking trust. You're talking, we need to trust them, they need to trust us, and we need to trust each other. That's what we're missing.
Well, some of this though is, I mean, and Tim's working on some, I think, and this is where I think is, you know, part of the answer is leveraging our system office, people who are independent, neutral parties who, and I get the sense I'm really gaining confidence in Tim talking to him that he's one of these people who just doesn't really play favorites, doesn't care, he just cares about the integrity of the process and the numbers. And yeah, I think he's working on some stuff and he hasn't figured out. So, I mean, I'm totally pretty good about that.
I've been doing backward with that.
I think Terry's comments yesterday about using consent agendas and taking up the agenda, and I've only been to, this is my second meeting, but the last meeting that I was at, and I may hit some of the feelings here, and I don't mean to do that, but I think we spent, the whole meeting was an hour about retention and math, and maybe a couple hour discussion about that. And then allowing time for educational sessions that people that can come in from various universities. That's one way we can gain their trust back. That it would be that president's time to shine to talk about whatever project is coming up at their university or what project they want us to focus on. So I think we got to get them engaged. But I think by tightening the agenda up, using more consent agendas, getting, you know, and it's important that everyone has a chance to talk, I agree. But it does really make the meetings run faster and smoother, and a lot of that stuff is off to the side. And we're spending more time gaining the trust of the presidents, and they're gaining our trust at the same time.
But, you know, as I watched that video, as I told a couple of you, I mean, I love that kind of stuff. It's what I've done my whole life, that kind of stuff. But boy, with those long presentations, in incredible detail, you don't need that much detail. You don't care about that much detail. What it does is open the door for you to say, oh, boy, let me ask you some questions about that. I mean, you don't even know that didn't matter, but they just keep opening doors for you when it's long and
We
detailed.
allow that. We allow it.
Well, that's right. So, you know, I'm on a corporate board out of Dallas. You know, 15 years, big time energy board. We do, they send out to us for every committee and also for the board, the total board agenda, the evaluation of each, how we do it. And there's this, not long, you know, it's maybe 20 questions, and most are just checking things off. But what they discovered about 5 or 6 years ago is we all said, cut down the presentations. We don't work here. I mean, what we need to do, we're dealing with here, and you're getting us down into minutes and stuff like crazy. And it's just, you can sit there and plus it was stuff they'd sent out. And then we're going over it again in the meeting. So guess what that makes board members do? Quit reading stuff. And so they're not ready for, you know, now everything's off the hip. You know, just shoot from the hip and stuff.
Well, I think that what will come out of this meeting today, setting goals and whatnot, that we can get rid of this stuff, because then it will be in their hands to only have to hear all these things. We will just see the dashboard, up, down, level,
but I still want to caution on that, okay? As the guy who's been here actually longer now than anybody in this room. We have done this probably 4 times since I've been on board, and we have set standards, requirements, we have set graduation rate requirements, and it gets back to something we talked about yesterday. This board has never known how to hold anybody accountable. So this board has to get prepared that if you say the University of North Dakota is going to increase their graduation rate by 5% in 5 years, I don't know it. And Bob Kelly does not do it, and if there's not a good explanation, you need to be prepared to hold him accountable. Because what you're going to get, and what I have seen, almost makes you lose your will to live on this board. Come in, what you set was unreasonable, here's a stack of documents this high, actually graduation rates don't really mean much. I mean, it's just, and it never, and here we are again. And you know, we're backing out and we're trying another angle. But I think it's because, you know, short of crime, nobody gets held accountable here.
Are those things tied to their evaluations, Jack?
No.
Well, but I think it should be. It's almost a self-fulfilling evaluation right there. I mean, if you're, and this is what I liked about what Ann was doing, is that it's like, hey, you're going to sit down and help me come up with these goals. These are my goals. These are your goals that you told me you could achieve. And if you don't, this is what the evaluation is. I mean, it's, you know, and that's why I like involving them so that these are their goals.
Which we'll get to today.
The inherent
In a lot of
problem
times,
is that
passing thought, there are different ways to attack things. Sometimes instead of getting in big arguments about the front end of things, your job, set the goals. You can talk about whether or not you like the admission standards or not, Mr. President. You can talk about whatever. Regardless, here's where you've got to be. Anybody worth their salt knows that if I want to keep having open admissions and letting everybody in, I'm going to look at your retention rate. You let people in and never have a prayer, and here they go right out the door now after a semester or a year. Not fair to anybody. They money down and all these kind of things. You know, the whole point of admission standards is it sets the bar, it should say. Here's what admission standards should say. Here's what it takes to be successful at our place. You know, you've got to have at least this much talent. These courses have got to have been had. Your GPA's got to be at least here. Your ACT or SAT has got to be at least here, because our research shows, somebody ought to be able to back that up. Our research shows that if you can be at that level, you should be successful here. If you're below that, you're probably not going to be successful. Are there exceptions? Absolutely. And the other part of the admission standards is really important, is you have some leeway. It's not just straight numbers. It's, there are other factors there other than being the speaker's son or something, but there are other factors there that says potential's here. I mean, this is somebody that probably has it. I just worked with a kid who was a grandson of a great friend of mine and wanted to get in SMU, and his GPA was awful in high school. And then he went off and played professional hockey, believe it or not, for about 4 years. Boy, he just matured. He started 2 or 3 businesses, entrepreneur, all this stuff. And so SMU now is going to give him a shot, but he's got to do this first. He's got to take some courses, do whatever. But they're going to get him in because that high school GPA now is not as big a factor as. So you got to be flexible, I guess I'm saying with that. So just set those goals. Mr. President, that's where you got to be. Period. If you think you can do it by having open admissions, you know, we don't agree with you. And if you don't prove that you can do it with open admissions, then
We've already tried that.
We tried that, that's not working. Not what we're
your
hoping.
retention rates and graduation rates are
Abysmal.
abysmal. I mean, they just are.
Thank you for
They
saying
just-
that.
Okay, time out.
Okay.
Yeah, we can't talk about that either.
But I mean,
But we're going to fix
we have to, the board,
Yes, we
have to
are.
be willing to give bad news. And you have to be willing to take that hard road. And I think, from my observations over the years, board is always fighting off attack after attack. If it's not the legislature, it's the president. If it's not that, we hire this chancellor from Alabama. He comes in, he tries to rein in a president. Here you go again, right? And then the board's caught in the middle. And I think that can cause folks to run scared a little bit and not be willing to do what is the responsibility. And it's difficult to give bad news sometimes. You know, I mean, if you don't, if you go to be a medical doctor and you don't like getting bad news, don't go heme, okay? Because you're always telling somebody you're going to die. But the reality is that's the responsibility. And I know that's in a way what Grant you're talking about is hold people accountable. Well, it's just not hold people. Be willing. You have to have the will to hold people accountable.
Will is a big word. We used it yesterday. It's a big word.
So, I mean, my observations, that I think is I don't think there's not the ability, but sometimes the will is what's really important.
Let me just go somewhere. The president and the chancellor is only as good as the board. Only as good as the board. You send a strong message when you have a chancellor who's reigning in a president like Dr. Potts. I know Dr. Potts forever. But you send a really strong message when the president wins. Robert may be doing a lot of things wrong. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what all went on. He may deserve to go.
He preceded all of us.
Yeah, okay. But, you know, knowing Robert, I know he would try to do the right thing and to run it right. But he came up against the president won. So everybody said, yeah, the board's not going to support that chancellor, so therefore we're not going to support that chancellor, whoever it is. And so you just got to be careful about every message you send, every message. But step up. I mean, it's time to step up. Public's crying, I think they're crying for you to step up, and I'll bet you, except for one or two people out in the institutions, they're crying for you to step up. All right. Love being with you all. Thank you. Anything I can do to help you all go forward. You all have my number too. So peace and goodwill, as they say.
Nice to see you. Take care.
Thanks, Terry. Thank you, Chris.
Tom, great to see you. Thanks so much.
Nice to meet you.
Professor. Go get him.
How's your email chance right now?
I know.
She's already done.
You better get on the road.
Here comes Larry, hide my phone.
Get out of here.
No, you're one of them. Okay.
Just that change the name since you're off the meeting.
We may gather.
Oh.
Y'all. All y'all.
Just like this.
Your line's going underneath, going like this. No, I mean,
So did you get us an extra breakfast?
I have it.
Oh, that's just great. I was already shaking this morning with the 3 or 4 breakfast. Katie. I noticed you.
I don't know if it's still there.
No, I'm not.
Weren't with the customer, it was with the non-customer. Why not? charge your customer. And that's just a whole different way to look at it. Exit interview. Why are you even here? Just like a business, when the top talent leaves, you always try to interview to find out why. Is it money? Is it benefits? Are you not engaged? Are you not challenged? If we don't know these issues, we can't address them.
No big deal. I'm gonna go for
Thank you so much. Safe travel.
I'm not gonna go into all the presidents, but thank you guys.
Tom, thank
Enjoyed
you.
being with you, enjoyed meeting you, Doug. Steve, my pleasure. See you guys. Take care.
Hey, take care.
I'm out of here.
Okay.
Out of your way. Thanks.
Okay, are we all set to begin here?
Yep, I think we can. We're just missing a couple board members.
Okay. Before we get started this morning, I do want Linda to tell you, I mean, it's a little bit disconcerting, I suppose, all of a sudden we've got cameras set up here and we've got all this sort of stuff. It should not be intimidating. There's a reason for it, and Linda's going to explain that to us, what's going on. And it'll be just this morning, right? I think just tell me. And then in the afternoon when we come back and do the other things, they'll all be gone. But there's a purpose for it. Go ahead, Linda.
It's pretty simple. We're just going to do some marketing of the strategic plan afterwards. So we hope to put together a highlights video, and it'll just show you talking. And we hope to pull a few people out during the lunch break right before the crew has to leave, and do some interviews about what your hopes and dreams are for today, and maybe some tidbits about your ideas about strategic planning and how that would help us go forward. And it will all be for promoting where we're going in the future, especially between October 2nd and November 4th.
And understand, this is our video, so we're in charge of it. So when John Richmond says something really stupid, it will not be.
Why are you picking on John so early in the morning?
Don't worry, they have one lined up for each of us. They're coming, dude.